So greetings from Pennsylvania once again, and as you can tell by the title of the video, we're doing another episode, finally, in our series on mountain lions in Pennsylvania. I think the last one we did was last fall sometime. Didn't do any over the winter. We'll hopefully pick that up again. But we are here in Swatara State Park today, not too far from where I live. So as always, well, not as always. Sometimes I don't have a story, but I do have a story to tell you. I found online about someone's encounter with a mountain lion here in the park. And I do have a trail cam along, which we'll put out here. Try to get as close to the spot indicating the story as I can. I have some bait and some scent lure, like I usually have, that was put out. Just a little ways to walk yet. And when we do sit down and read the story, we will scrutinize it a bit. We always do. If you can't have people judge your story at all, then I don't know. That's always suspicious. Now sometimes people get mad when you judge their story a little bit and look for faults, but that's what you gotta do. You can't always you shouldn't be taking everything at face value all the time when it comes to these kinds of stories. You should be critical of them. And you should allow people to be critical. Alright. Like I said, we got a little ways to walk. Alright, we've made it down to the Swatara Rail Trail, which is where our story takes place. This is the old abandoned highway here. But I want to go up further to where the marker on the map was for this story happened. But it occurred on the rail trail here. People were on horseback. So let's go up a little bit further. Alright, we're getting close to the spot. This is a long, lonely section of road. Can't drive on anymore. It's just for like hiking and biking and stuff. But I think, yeah, the trail, the road turns up there. So I think actually up in, I don't think up in here just quite. Maybe just up a little bit further yet here. You can see up ahead, way up ahead, the road turns. So I think I'm looking at Google Maps, just up over this hill a little bit is our location. Yeah, looking over here, there's a pretty distinctive trail coming down. That might be, I don't know if that some human activity on that trail too, maybe, but I don't see a corresponding trail so much on the other side here. Although, maybe, I don't know, maybe up through there. So we're in the area. Let's go up. All right, let's go up here. Let's quick check. I'm going to turn you off as I go up here. Yeah, it looks like it's just a field up there. I don't want to put a trail cam up there anywhere. All right, let's see here. Might go back where we came just a little bit. Yeah, there was some nicer forested area up here. I think I'm gonna go back just a little bit. But take note of the steep sides back there you saw, and it's also steep down this way. Those steep sides are mentioned in the story, so we're in the right area. Just looking for a slightly more wooded area. There's another trail going up there, so animals are coming down this hillside. You can see another trail here coming down. I see some, looks like human footprints though too. Huh. Well, I found an old homestead site. There's some concrete, there's all kinds of block and brick. There's a cut down telephone pole up there, but I think maybe in this area there are a number of game trails going through here. Just need a nice spot to put the trail cam up and some bait and stuff like that. And a nice place to sit and read you the story. Let me get back to you. Alright, so I think I'm going to use this location right here. There's a trail going up over that log, up into the brush there. So I'm having trouble finding a tree that I could put the trail cam on, but I found that piece of dead wood there and I shoved it up in there. I think that'll work. Let's straighten it out just a little bit yet. Right there. So I think, yeah, then we'll put some bait and scent lure right on this log. But I have a story to tell you, so let's get to that. Alright, so I got my story here. Got my reading glasses, probably don't need those. I printed out in larger print. Here we go. Alright, it's called Surprise on the Trail. So, let's see here. So when I had my horse farm, my then wife and I would often trailer two of our horses a few miles for local trail rides, just the two of us. One such adventure was to Swatara State Park in northern Lebanon County, where we are now, at this spot here. While deer hunting the area, I had found a very large slip bank of the Swatara Creek that was fairly clear, firm, and had hiking trails and an old railroad bed right through it. That's the area that right through here. So Swatara Creek is just right down there. I found it had real good access road and plenty of room to turn the truck and trailer rig around and park. All right, so great for, taking a horse out. So one fine day, we decided to head there for a ride. We arrived, backed the horses from the trailer, tied and tackled them up. There was no other activity in the area. We knew we could not get lost because of so many good landmarks, so we simply headed out on one of the wider trails where we could see, where we could ride side by side, and that would be this trail right out here on the rail trail. All right, we had ridden for about 10 minutes, which is about what I walked down here, when an animal jumped out of the brush on one side of the trail, broadside to us. It stopped and stared at us. Our very experienced trail horses did not panic. They both had experience with deer, wild turkey, and even black bears on other rides. They simply stopped and fixed their eyes on the animal, though the horses did. We both got a good look for about 3 to 4 seconds as it stared at us and hissed before the beast dived into the brush opposite from where it entered. The wife exclaimed, "What was that?" Back to the next page. I told her that I believe it was a cougar. A wildcat. She did not believe me. We finished our ride a couple of hours later, having only seen a few white flags of deers fleeing our presence in their territory. We made our way back to our rig, unsaddled our horses, loaded them up, and headed home. Once home, the horses put to pasture and put back in the shed. We went inside. The wife asked if I was sure we had seen a mountain lion. So I went to our old, reliable encyclopedia. So either these people didn't have internet access or this is pre-internet. We went to our encyclopedia and looked up cougar mountain lion. Sure enough, there was a broadside picture of one, almost exactly the same pose we had observed. The caption to this picture referred to the long, sweeping tail that is a signature of the species, and they're correct about that. The wife then had to agree that this is what we had clearly seen. At the local deer camp I belonged to and some other watering holes, I described the experience to a number of people. The younger set poo-pooed me. Several local old-timers, however, believed me. Some had seen mountain lions locally in their younger days. One gentleman opined, this story comes up all the time. One gentleman mentioned how he thinks the Pennsylvania Game Commission had trapped hundreds of wild turkeys and swapped them to a western state for several mountain lions to release in wilderness areas. I've heard so many versions of that story about the Game Commission releasing mountain lions. And it goes on, it talks a little bit here how mountain lions do travel a lot looking for a I just lost my place. Yeah, do travel a lot looking for home territory or for a good one to source. We talk about that. Yeah, he goes on a little bit more here. It says, epilogue. The following deer season, I was hunting the same area as our horseback ride. I worked my way to the top of the lower side of the cut, which is right back there, for the abandoned railroad, and found very large cat tracks in the recent wet snow. The tracks, there was my papers. The tracks were much too big to be a bobcat or lynx, which I am familiar with. The top of the cut was a perfect ambush point, and there were deer tracks on the old railroad bed. I did not follow them, but the cat tracks went towards the Swatara Creek until too far for me to see. Nearby, I found a half-eaten doe, but no tracks in the fresh snow. So what to think of this story? Going back, look at the first page. Does it mention how far away they were from when it jumped out in front of them? Yeah, it says we had ridden for about 10 minutes and the animal jumped out of the brush. Yeah, so that is one factor. We've talked about this before. When an animal's further away, sometimes telling how big it is can be an issue. I'm not saying that they didn't see a mountain lion, but in these stories, as I do try to critique them a little bit. If it was far enough away, it could have been a house cat, folks. I know people get mad at me for saying that, but it has happened. I've talked about it in the past. If you go into those Facebook groups for like mountain lions in Pennsylvania, the number of people that post pictures of house cats thinking that they are seeing a mountain lion is insane sometimes. And then they get all mad when people point out like that's a house cat, and they get all mad. I would just say that's a possibility. They only 3 or 4 seconds. They only saw it too, so it's not a long time. But yeah, I don't know. The fact that the horses stayed calm. Horses have a history of like freaking out when like mountain lions are nearby. They can even smell them. But anyway, just some thoughts. Otherwise, I don't really have a whole lot to criticize the story. It's pretty basic. But you can let me know in the comments what you think about the story. If there's anything that kind of stands out to you that doesn't seem right or otherwise. I know at one point you mentioned seeing tracks in the snow later. This part here, but tracks I think he said they're fresh tracks. Did he say they're fresh? Anyway, sometimes tracks end up looking bigger than they are. If the snow melts just a little bit, the tracks get bigger too. So anyway, enough criticizing the story. You can let me know what you think of the story, like I said below. But let's get this trail cam set up. Let's get the bait set up, and then we'll head out of here and leave this cam out here for a couple, maybe 2 weeks or so. We'll see, and come back and get it. All right, so everything is set up. Oh, I'm in the shade here. Let me hop over here. I got the trail cam set up over there. Make sure I turn it on before I leave. That would be a mistake. But I have a bunch of chicken legs from home. They're in the freezer for a while for this. So I got a couple here. I shoved some underneath the bark there and there. So, and I also have some my scent lure. I put some on there and some over here. So that should attract the carnivores. This was attract like coyotes and foxes and bobcats, but maybe the chicken meat will attract others. Plus this is a trail going right through here too, so let me hop over here. So between all this, hopefully we'll get some footage, perhaps not a mountain lion, but some other things maybe. All right, I just got to turn that on yet. All right, it is now filming, so let's get on out of here. And just as I was coming out, I was like, I gotta make a marker or something so I know where to go in. Right here there is one. I didn't plan that, but there's a big white arrow, and my cam is right over there somewhere. Alright, so we'll leave that out there for a while. Not sure how long. Usually when you leave the bait out, it attracts visitors right away. I know people say, well, if they did see a mountain lion, it was obviously some time ago, so probably the same one would not be in the area, but I've often figured that if whatever attracted one mountain lion to this area, if there are others traveling through the area, then others would come through the same area. Perhaps because the mountain lion that was here is leaving its scent behind. That's also all conjecture too, we don't really know if a mountain lion indeed did pass through here. But anyway, one way to find out is to place trail cams out. So anyway, I just love putting trail cams out anyway to see what shows up. Even if a mountain lion doesn't show up, you get to see all kinds of other cool critters on the camera. We had some really neat experiences last year doing that. All right, I'll get back to you in a bit. All right, so it is sometime later and we are back. And there's our arrow. So that's where we need to go in. I might actually go in a little bit further. If I go in this way, the trail cam is going to capture a bunch of images of me, so maybe we'll just go in up a little bit further, coming from behind it. Alright, so where is that trail cam? We need to find it pretty soon. Look at those dark clouds coming. Alright. I think maybe up this way. Okay, right here's where he put it, but I see that the log that I had placed it on has fallen down. So there's my trail cam, so we'll see. Maybe somebody knocked that down. I'm gonna take that as a good sign that this got knocked down. I don't think wind knocked it down. I had it pretty wedged in there, so I think maybe perhaps a larger animal came through here and was, because remember that one video with the bear messing around with my trail cam, maybe that's what happened here. But all the chicken bones are gone. I'd shoved some underneath this bark here, underneath this bark up here. There's chicken bones down here, so everything's gone. So that's a good sign. All the bones are gone. Trail cam was knocked down. I mean, something came through here. Maybe something big. But anyway, I gotta get home. It's supposed to rain tonight and tomorrow morning, so I think that's what's coming. But anyway, I gotta go home, check out this footage, and I'll show it to you. All right. Okay, so I'm home now, but that was a bit disappointing. It was cool to see the crow carry off a whole chicken leg like that, but then just like that, something knocked my camera down. Watched that clip a couple times. Whatever it was, it didn't come from the front, and it's almost, I don't know, I kind of wonder if someone came upon it, because it is morel season. It almost feels like someone just kind of kicked it and knocked it down. Who knows, maybe something else, because it wasn't right on the trail. But anyway, you can let me know what you think. There wasn't as much footage, that was kind of a bummer, but it was still kind of cool to see the crow. But as always, you can let me know what you think. Yeah, this is the first time I put a camera up at a state park too, so it was kind of close to the rail trail, so maybe that's my fault. But anyway, I think I'll post this video anyway. It is what it is, folks. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.